All right. What's going on, y'all? Goofy Rexy here. Hope you guys are all doing well. So, I know that there have been a couple questions here so far in regards to team placement. So we're going to be covering that in today's video. Kind of a beginner's guide, right? In regards to just how to place teams. We're going to be following some general basic ideas here on what to do with certain teams. We're going to use 3 teams as an example, just to kind of give some variations to what you can potentially do. And we'll talk about a few other teams too as well, just in terms of like strategy. But listen, we're going to cover some basics here. We're not going to go into too much detail. If you want me to go into detail, I definitely can on another video. But just like I said, today we're just going to do a pretty basic guide on team placements. All right, let's do it right now. All right. So I got my Asgardian team here. So we're going to be going through really quickly. Like I said, it's just going to be basic idea when it comes to team placement. So the biggest thing to remember when it comes to team placements is that you're going to want to try to put your protector, your tank, as far away from your most valuable tune as you possibly, your valuable tunes, as you possibly can. So in this particular setup and lineup here, I have my Asgardian team and I have Sif, who is my tank. I have a protector. I have her all the way to the very end. And then I have Hela, who is my most valuable tune, all the way on the opposite side to protect her away from sort of any adjacent hits. So you've seen it in kits before where, a tune will target one character, but then it will also hit an adjacent target. I want to make sure that I am protecting my squishiest, most valuable characters away from getting any sort of adjacent hits. So that's why you'll put your tank towards the very end. You'll put a character next to your tank that you're probably not as afraid if they take on any sort of damage. They might be a little bit tankier. They might be a little bit, tankier than your other squishy tunes, or they may just not be as valuable to the team, so you don't mind losing them. They're still a good member on a team, but maybe not as valuable to your team. So you put them right next to your protector, because your protector is going to be, the one that's going to be taking on the most damage that the other target is going to do, if it's single or even if it's chain attacks. Not going to protect though against any sort of AoE attack. AoE attacks are going to hit everybody, so there's not really much that you can do there, but you can 100% protect against sort of any chain attack. So the idea is to put your protector, your tank on the very end, away from your squishy tunes, because you want to make sure that you're keeping them alive, right? Hela is your biggest damage dealer, but she does lack, health, so you want to make sure that you're keeping her safe. Loki is very squishy, very low on health, but brings a lot of sustain to this team. Anyone that gets below 50%, he is going to put them into stealth so that they cannot get hit anymore, barring any sort of AoE attack, right? But they can't be single targeted anymore, so you want to be able to keep Loki alive, you want to be able to keep Hela alive, so that you can get the most that you possibly can out of this team. There are times where the chaining attacks can hit, particularly in this instance, it will hit Sif. It could chain up to 2 targets. It can hit Heimdall. It can hit Thor. So I want to keep, like I said, in terms of adjacent targets, it's going to go this way. It's going to go Sif, Heimdall, Thor, and if it does change to an additional target, then it's going to hit Loki. But for the most part, not all attacks do that. So the idea here is that this kind of formula works to be able to keep those squishy characters away from being targeted and getting hit multiple times. I hope I'm saying that right and that you guys are getting it here. Of course, like I said, if you have any questions, make sure that you do ask those questions. We're going to talk about some other aspects of this too as well, so that you guys can kind of get a little bit of an idea on that. But I'll say this: if you guys have any questions about anything, please make sure that you leave a comment, or you can catch me live on Twitch. My link is down below too as well. And then there's a Discord server, so if you want to come in and ask me any sort of specific questions, that's also all those links are down below, so you can also connect with me there. Next, we're going to talk about kind of like adjacent abilities that your tunes have, that you're going to want to make sure that you're utilizing too as well. All right, so to talk about adjacent abilities here, I actually have my Guardian team with Minerva instead of Mantis. This team actually just works out better with Minerva. I mean, she just brings more healing to this team, and she's a fantastic character, so why not? So in this particular instance here, we're going to be talking about adjacent effects that your tunes, provide. But, we're going to talk about, obviously, the fact that I'm putting, my two tankiest characters here towards the very end, so in this particular situation, I do have Drax, who does auto taunt right off the bat. And then, of course, you also do have Groot, who does get an apply taunt, after Rocket does his special ability. So, it kind of just makes sense for me to put Groot here towards the very end because he's in the taunt next. Drax will essentially lose his taunt before. You can have him taunt again, but you might want to save that for a little bit later. But yeah, he will use his taunt again later. But like I said, these are the two tankiest guys. Any adjacent hits will hit there. You can switch Drax and put Drax here. Actually, that could actually work too, but I digress from that. We're really talking about the adjacent effects here. In this particular moment, I have Star-Lord at the very end, who has an adjacent ability. That adjacent ability is that he will apply, well, actually really with his special attack, it's that he grants 2 ability energy to random adjacent allies. So it's going to be very important for you to pay attention to the abilities that your tunes have, because in this particular instance and moment, I actually want to make sure that I put Star-Lord at the very end to lessen the randomization of the ability energy that he's going to give. So if I put him towards the very end, the only adjacent ally that he has is going to be Rocket. And I am guaranteeing that ability energy that he is given is going to go directly to Rocket. And I want Rocket to get that ability energy, because when he gets that means that he is going to fill up, mainly for me, he's going to fill up his ultimate ability, and he's going to be able to do that more. This is very important if you're using, the Guardians in any sort of raids. If you're using them really kind of against any other team, you're going to want to make sure that you have Star-Lord and Rocket right next to Star-Lord, so that Star-Lord will give that ability energy to Rocket, because Rocket is your biggest damage dealer on that team, and you want to make sure that he's doing his ultimate, which is a big AoE attack. So you want to put Rocket right next to Star-Lord. Now, another way that you can use this team, if you're using, well, not specifically overall team, but if you're using Minerva and then you're using Star-Lord, you can actually put Minerva right next to Star-Lord, and then Star-Lord will grant ability energy to a Minerva. And then, so for instance, this is more of like a Dark Dimension 2 thing. You put Minerva right next to Star-Lord. He's going to give her ability energy. She's going to be your biggest damage dealer in Dark Dimension 2 if using that combo. So you want to make sure that Minerva is going to be getting ability energy to then use her ultimate attack to take off that 15% off the other tunes. So the idea here is look at your adjacent effects, see what they do, and then position your team strategically that way as well, so that you're utilizing the best of their abilities also. All right, so keeping up with the theme here of the adjacent abilities. So with the Brotherhood team, this is actually kind of a unique situation here. So we're going to talk a little bit more deeper strategy. Like I said, this is, if you have questions, just ask me. I'm willing and able to answer those questions for you here. So the Brotherhood team in general is a very squishy group of characters, with Magneto, Toad, as well as Pyro. They kind of do suffer with the low health syndrome, and can kind of get hit pretty hard and be taken out pretty fast, right? So your 2 protectors here on this team are Blob and, oh my god, I can't believe I did that, guys. Hold on, let me get Blob back. So that's Blob and then Juggernaut, right? So you keep them at the end. You could put Blob towards the very end here and put Juggernaut back here, but unfortunately you're going to be losing a little bit of what Blob can actually do for this particular team. So Blob does have in his kit, actually I'll show it to you, because I want you to know I'm not lying. So I'll show it to you. So Blob actually does have this in his kit here, where on enemy turn he applies 1 deflect up to a maximum of 3 to the adjacent ally. So in this particular particular situation here, those adjacent allies are going to be, guess who? Magneto and Juggernaut. Now, Juggernaut doesn't necessarily need it. He doesn't necessarily need the deflect, but definitely Magneto does need that deflect. Even though Magneto is the most important, target or character on this team, he is actually the highest health of the squishiest characters, with Toad and with Pyro. Pyro, you want to be able to keep him alive. Pyro has very low health. You want to keep Pyro alive because he can clear some positive effects, off the other team. He can also as well, he applies a lot of freaking bleeds, so you want to be able to keep Pyro alive. Toad, can get evade and dodge and stuff like that, so you're probably he can dodge, so you're probably going to be okay with him. Magneto can't dodge and can take on some damage, so putting Blob here and then being able to give Magneto deflect actually keeps some of that damage down that Magneto can get. And then of course giving that deflect also as well to Juggernaut, is just going to allow Juggernaut to stay alive for longer. And the longer that Juggernaut stays alive, even though he's pretty tanky anyways, the longer that Juggernaut stays alive is the more chance that you have for him to build up all those charges and then to use his ultimate ability. But the biggest thing here is if you put Blob at the very end here, then you're going to be losing, essentially kind of what Blob does, which is give those deflects. So you want to maximize that, right? By putting him in the middle, making sure that Magneto and Juggernaut are getting those deflects also as well. So I think, when it comes to strategy here, you want to make sure that you're utilizing kits. So reading up the kits, seeing what they do, making sure that, that you're maximizing and getting the most out of a team. I will say this with certain teams, the concept doesn't always work where you're keeping your squishiest character away from, your tank character. So in this particular scenario, Colossus is right next to Phoenix. Phoenix is really probably your squishiest character. But the idea here is that if she does get hit, you want her to die so that she could then come back as Dark Phoenix. And then that way you are able to do crap ton of damage because Dark Phoenix is way better than Phoenix. So that's really kind of the idea. The essential part of her kit is being able to do that. There's also a team in the X-Force team where if you want to put Domino next to Deadpool or Deadpool next to Domino, because people are going to try to take out Domino first. And if you try to take out Domino first and then you end up accidentally killing Deadpool, then she's going to revive Deadpool. So it's just like little different strategies that you can take a look at. With the Defenders team, you put Daredevil, yes, he's squishy as heck, right next to Luke Cage, because when Luke Cage does gain taunt, if anyone does hit Daredevil, then Punisher is going to then attack that target, and Punisher is a big damage dealer. So, the scenarios can change, but the thing is that the basic of it all is that you want to make sure that you are keeping your squishiest characters away from damage. You put your tank, your taunt, your protector on the other side so that they're not going to get any sort of adjacent damage, and then also reading the kits to make sure that you're seeing what effects that those tunes give to their allies that are with them, to make sure that you are maximizing the most, out of each individual tune. But if you guys want me to go into like specific deepness in regards to like specific teams, I absolutely can. This is a lot to cover, but I wanted to try to just cover some basics here. So I hope that this was helpful for you guys. I appreciate you watching. It's like I said, if you have any questions, let me know, please. I'm willing and happy to do so. Appreciate you guys so much. Be blessed and be safe.